Hi, good morning. I'm Sofi. I'm currently at Kechara Forest Retreat, Bentong, Malaysia. And today I'll be doing my short sharing on what are preliminary practices. Well, for those of you who are interested in going all the way towards achieving the real, sorry, hold on, let me move this bit. Okay. In achieving the real results in spiritual attainments, then you will have to begin with preliminary practices. These are the practices that will build up the strong foundation for you to attain higher practices and gain better success in developing realizations. The preliminary practices are like the necessary trainings ahead of the marathon run. No pain, no gain. And like building that strong foundation for the house that will stand through the test of time. So today actually what I'm sharing on is actually taken from my guru, His Eminence the 25th Sam Tuko Rinpoche's blog. And this is just a summarization of what is on the blog. And if you are really interested, then you really should go and read up the whole blog, because it's very comprehensive. And okay, preliminary practices done well and with good motivations, higher tantric practices could purify a tremendous amount of negative karma and open up your mind into developing profound realizations, you know, after you were given the tantric practice. There are many, you know, who chase after higher tantric practices, but from, you know, various high lamas, but are totally unprepared for the vows and the commitments, you know, that is involved. And as such, you know, they would usually not achieve results with their practices, and maybe disheartened, you know, they would give up their practices, you know. So it's not advisable that you were to chase after tantric practice, you know, without these initial practices that you should actually go through. So for Dharma practices to be successful, you know, we have to develop our practice in a manner similar to building a house. Preliminary practices prepare our mind, because we need to use our intellectual understanding of the Dharma into practice. And in order to transform, we have to have that mindfulness, you know, and to put the necessary effort to correct the actions of our body, speech, and mind at all times. In the Gelug tradition, there are actually 6 preliminaries, sorry, but you know, condensed into the 5 basic points. In general, the preliminary practices are divided into the ordinary. I'm going to get stuck with all this. Preliminaries and the extraordinary. The ordinary preliminaries consist of the 4 contemplations that we should contemplate during the formal practices of the extraordinary preliminaries. This is to gain the right motivations for the practices in order to accumulate merits and purify, and instead of just dry recitations. The 4 contemplations are the difficulty of obtaining a perfect human rebirth. Number 2 is impermanence and death. 3, the law of karma. 4, the misery of samsara. So these are the 4 contemplations that we should actually, you know, think of and meditate on, and during our in conjunction with the extraordinary preliminaries. So for the extraordinary preliminaries, in general, the Dharma practice, you know, is a step-by-step process of mental development. So to engage in tantric practices, we must be committed from the initial practices to completion. So the express prerequisite for Tantra is the experiences of the 3 principal aspects of the path: renunciation, Bodhichitta, and the correct view of Shunyata. Because they act as the entry point into the path of Tantra. So all these points, you can actually visit the blog to find out more, as Rinpoche has explained them more in more detail there. And other prerequisites for Tantra includes the very, very strong faith in your Guru, as explained in the 50th stanza of Guru Devotion by Aswagosha. This I have actually shared in the two of my sharings previously. And the appropriate initiations, from a qualified teacher. Just looking at images of Buddhas, reading tantric texts, knowing the mantras are actually not tantric practices. That because this one, even those who are not interested, they can do it. So the following general flow of the preliminaries are as follows, but we should actually consult a spiritual teacher for further instructions. So the first one is taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. The second is prostration. The third is Rajasattva sadhana. The fourth is offering of the mandala. And the fifth is Guru Yoga. So the first, taking refuge and generating bodhicitta. So all this I'll explain very briefly. And I said, visit the site, the blog post, where everything is explained there in full. So for the first, taking refuge and generating bodhicitta, this practice is the first and the most important, to prepare the mind for Dharma practice. This is like a clean bowl in which you put the food, to be placed inside. So if the bowl is dirty, then you actually spoil the food, So as such, this is a practice that will help you clean and prepare your mind. So taking refuge in the Buddha is necessary preliminary practice before we undertake the more advanced practice, because it will ensure the success of the practice. And then we was advised to do 100,000 prostrations, because this is to perform before before an object of refuge, such as a Buddha statue, any form that you like, and as part of our Guru Yoga. And it's a very effective means of purifying the seeds of any unskilled karma, especially that of physical karma. It is also effective in purification of obstacles, afflictions, and especially counters pride, because while you're prostrating, you have to humble yourself down. And when you're engaging in prostration, the practice or the retreat, we should actually recite it together with the 35 confessional Buddhas, because it's a form of confession, that our transgression, that we mentioned the name of the transgression against Buddha's teachings. So it's a confession while we're doing prostration. So in this practice, the physical prostration involves the body, the recitation of the sutra involves the speech, and our deep respect towards the object, which is the Buddha, constitute prostration of the mind. So with this practice in this manner, we are prostrating through the three doors, which is the body, speech, and mind, and not just only using the body. So the advice is you should start slow. Maybe you start off with 50 prostration, and then as you go along, maybe you increase to 100, 150. So this one is to prevent exhaustion, and then you may decide to give up. And the third is Rajasattva sadhana. So that there's a prayer that is enclosed in the blog post that you should recite during each session of the Rajasattva retreat, or as a daily sadhana. And there's also a description of the shrine of Rajasattva statue, or tanka, or a print that could be arranged that you do the prayer in front of. And then there's the offerings as well that is described there in the blog post as well. And also we've been advised to accumulate also 100,000 offerings of the mandala, and this has also been these are also described very thoroughly in the blog post as how to do the mandala offering. And the fifth is the Guru Yoga, which is also 100,000 of the recitation. So in our tradition, the practice of Guru Yoga, or they call it Lama Chopa, the standard visualization, is depicted in the Tanka, with a Guru tree. So the Guru is visualized, sitting on a lotus seat in the middle of the wish-fulfilling tree. And from the Guru's heart, like countless of Buddhas come forth, Bodhisattvas, or, coming forth, and they're seated on their lotus seat at the sides. And the assembly, is visualized, on the wish-fulfilling tree. And the space above, is like the entire lineage of the Gurus. So that is why it's very important that we know of our lineage, so that we can do it during our visualization. And it's a very complex visualization that we should try to master it, because all the blessings come through all of this. And the Guru Yoga practice can actually be performed together with a particular meditational deity that you've been given, or that you like, maybe like Manjushri or Tara. The practice of Guru Yoga, you require a complete confidence in our gurus, because the blessings will come through him. And the moment if there's a huge disparity between the guru's nature and our own, then we really must apply the effort, so that we can eliminate the obstacles that separate us from our guru, and reduce the difference until we attain the same nature as our guru, which is compassion, and also with his wisdom. So the ultimate attainment of union of our nature and our guru is the successful accomplishment of the Guru Yoga. I've just shared the basic guide, that is the preliminary practices, which is also known as Ngondro in Tibetan. And so it's very important that we read up and study the ordinary preliminaries, that we can use this as a basis or for motivation for the extraordinary preliminaries. And actually there are also other practices that we can do in addition, which is like making 100,000 chachas, or 100,000 butter lamp offerings, or 100,000 water offerings, and so on. The purpose of preliminary practices is to actually purify our negative karma, and accumulate the merits, so that the teachings that we receive can become realizations, and also to prepare our mind for the advanced practice of Tantra. So with that in mind, we should really engage the practices with diligence and correct view and motivations, because preliminary practice is actually the Dharma practice, and we have to be very careful with our attitude and preparation for it. We have to ensure that it does not become just a physical or verbal exercise, but the development of the mind. So as I said, please do visit the blog post that I will provide the link at my Facebook, and because Rinpoche has given a very complete information there for you to start. And so with this, I wish you great success in your preliminary practices, and may you gain the higher tantric practice that will lead you to freedom from samsara. So as such, I will end this session here, and I'll see if there's any questions. A question from Yin Teo. If we don't start with the preliminaries practices, does it mean we will not have any attainment, or will be slower in gaining attainment? That one actually depends on your your that I can't tell because I do not know the level of each individual, but the preliminary is actually a practice for us to really transform our mind, to be more mindful. It's a practice of mindfulness, a practice of diligence, and also most importantly is the tenacity that we do not give up as we continue. So in gaining attainments or not, sorry, that one is something individual that I cannot ascertain to. Okay, from Joy Kam, if you do Dharma work 24/7, are you accepted from preliminary practices? Why yes and why not? Okay, because when you're engaging in Dharma work, you are actually also doing practices. You're actually kind of in retreat as well, because you have to be very mindful of your actions as and also you have to change your attitude towards working with everyone else and towards how you do your work. And also you have to be very giving and very kind. So all these are also actually practices that I would say that the exemption I can't really say, because that one I would say that only a qualified guru would know. So it depends on the individual's practice, whether during the Dharma work do they apply themselves, fully. So as such, this I really cannot answer, whether it's yes or not. Okay, based on question from Pastor Adeline. Based on what you have said at the beginning, those who are serious about Dharma practice should take on the preliminary practices. Therefore, those who are not shouldn't take on the preliminary practices. Actually, not really, because those who are very serious, they should actually do take it on, because it's a very good practice, a basis for your tantric practice. And for those who are not going to take on who are not serious, they can actually do it, because it purifies a lot of negative karma and allow you to gain the merits, and also to basically it's also a good training, for you. So as such, it's advisable that if you can, to take it on as well. Okay, from Pastor Shin Tan. Must we do preliminary practices before engaging in any other practices? Is this a must? It's been an advice that we should do it, but it's really up to the spiritual guide that would know you best and see if it's necessary for you to do it before you gain the tantric practice. Okay. Sorry, just let me refresh it. Sorry, I don't see any more new questions. Okay, there's one more. Okay. From Chris Chong, do we have to do all the preliminary practices? It was suggested that we should do all the 5 sets of preliminary. As you can see, there are also additionals, so I can't really tell you that you have to or have not to, whether you have to or not, because this is actually would be best that you do, otherwise unless advised by your spiritual guide. I don't seem to have any more new questions. Okay, so as such, I'll end the session here, and if there's any questions that I missed, I would go back and reply. Thank you very much for joining me today, and please do visit the blog where it explains very well, and if you are really serious about your practice, do start on it, because you gain a lot from completion of these practices. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll end this with the completion dedication in Tibetan. Jang Job Senjo Rinpoche, Mage Panam Ge Yoshi, Ge Panam Pame Payang, Gone Gondo Pewasho, Tony To Rinpoche, Mage Panam Ge Yoshi, Ge Panam Pame Payang, Gone Gondo Pewasho, Das No Jini Sapagi Wadi, Dandan Droa Guna Gampada, Ge Paje Solo Santrapai, Tamping Nim for Rindusa Se Sho, Ge Wakuntu Yandala Mada, Andrami Choki Palano Chochin, Tadam Langi Yatera Zone, Doje Changi Ngopang Otoso, Ge Wadi, Yududa, Lama Sang Yudrione, Joa Chikyam Malupa, De Isala Gopashu, Joki Gaupo Sungkapa, Josu Nampa Pewala, Geki Samasi Wadang, Tunji Malu Sawashu, Dadam Sungi Dusundan, Trewa Songi Latini, Gewa Losandrapai, Tampayo Riva, Yushi, Ni Modele Sendele, Ni Migunyandele, Nisintatu Dele Pel, Concho Songi Jingilo, Concho Songi Ngodruso, Concho Songi Trasi, Sho, Jesu Lama Kusen Raptingshi, Nam Katrini Chocho Ke Padang, Losam Tempe Dromi Sapsungi, Droe Munsata Toni, Gyushi, Gawe Rawe Kowe Shinkamde, Pendandeo Malu Gyuini, Charan Zit, One Tensing Yatsoi, Chape Shide Padu Den Gyushi. Home, Dumping Otro Malupa, Dende Dala Salduso, Kodan Dempa Long Chotnam, Kepa Sushi Shuk Den Cell. Thank you very much.